Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today and welcome to today's webinar. I'm Lindsay Teal and I'll be your host for today's webinar, which should last around 45 minutes. In a second I'll hand you over to my colleague Richard Malloy. Richard is one of our water efficiency experts and works with organisations across Scotland to help them use water more efficiently and of course enjoy reduced water bills. Richard's going to share some of that experience during today's webinar. During the session, if you would like to ask Richard or myself a question on anything covered, you can type your question into the box shown here on screen and click send. You can do that at any time during the webinar and your questions will come to me. We'll stop at a couple of points throughout so you can ask as many questions as we can squeeze in. If you enjoy tweeting, you can also tweet your question to me using the hashtag #ResWebinar. Okay, I'll now hand you over to Richard.
Thanks very much, Lindsay. Good afternoon, everyone. Over the next 45 minutes or so, what I want to do is talk you through some simple, no-cost and low-cost opportunities that will help your organisation to save water and money. So firstly, I'll take you through why you should be looking to reduce water use within your organisation by providing you with a little bit of context, then an overview of how to prepare and ensure success, followed by the main body of the webinar, the opportunities for improvement and cost savings. I'll also provide you with some case studies of what other businesses have achieved and highlight some of the support that's available from Resource Efficient Scotland to help you build a successful water minimisation campaign. So, why should you actually reduce water within your organisation? Well, water is a commercial resource, just like raw materials or labour. So there are associated costs in terms of economic, carbon, as well as costs such as additional cost of heating or softening the water. Significant amounts of energy are embedded within the water supply network. So if you actually consider how much energy it must take to pump the water prior to the point of use, and also the additional water used in treating it. So as such, it's fair to assume that as energy costs continue to rise, water costs are likely to follow suit. So if we can reduce water, you're reducing a variable cost, and therefore you might be able to get a better edge over your competitors. And if you don't do it, there's a good chance that they will. So get in there first. As well as saving money, there's the added bonus of environmental kudos, which can help with positive PR and also provides a contribution to sustainable practices, which are more and more a requirement of work proposals and bids. Finally, if you actually consider how much you spend on water, so you're paying for water coming into your organisation, then you're paying for energy, for example, to heat it, and you may also add chemicals like softening or to chlorinate it or whatever it might be. But then at the other side, you're actually paying for it to be removed from your organisation. So every single step, you're adding additional value to that resource. So you want to be getting the most out of it. So if we quickly look at water use from a global point of view, there's a real growing pressure on water as a resource. So by 2030, the world will need about 30% more fresh water and will need to produce about 50% more food and energy while also mitigating and adapting to climate change. That's the extent of the challenge we've got facing us. Many parts of the world already face water quality issues. Groundwater sources that have been left untouched for thousands of years are having to be exploited and rivers are being heavily polluted. For example, in India, most groundwater that's abstracted is classed as overexploited, and we're actually starting to see many of these sources turn saline as seawater ingresses into them and makes them virtually useless for human consumption. We're experiencing continual population growth, rising from around 7 billion at the moment to 8 billion by 2025 and 9 billion by 2043. This is only exacerbated by continued economic growth, particularly in the east, leading to increased demand for supplies, security of supply issues, and ultimately leading to rising costs, and this is ultimately a major risk to business. So bringing it down to product level, what is the value of the water contained within everyday products? Or to put it another way, what is the water risk embedded within everyday products? So a way of measuring this is virtual water, and this provides an indication of the amount of fresh water consumed in the production of everyday products. If you consider, for example, about 50 litres goes into producing one orange, and that evening glass of wine will set you back about 120 litres, and a nice steak to go with that wine, you're talking about 15,000 litres. And that might sound like a lot, but 15,000 litres, that's made up of the water that goes into the cow feed to feed the cow, as well as the cow's drinking water and the processing of the meat to get it to your plate. So consider this. What are your raw materials and how much water is being exported from more water scarce parts of the world? The more water being exported and the higher the water stress within the area, the greater the risk to your business operations. Okay, so before we get into the main meat of the webinar, it's worth pointing out that it's very much beneficial to prepare for success by doing some initial monitoring and measurement of your water use within your organisation. So as a first step, you should take regular meter readings and record your water use. This will help you to determine how much water you currently use. If you don't know how much water you're currently using in the first place, you'll not be able to determine the success of any improvements that you make. Resource Efficient Scotland has developed a water usage tracking spreadsheet where you can enter your meter readings into a spreadsheet and it will help you to determine your usage. It also provides a very simple graphical output which you can export to reports, and you can also include a key performance indicator to help you determine how water use changes in relation to your business operations. For example, if you're a manufacturer, then you can look at things like litres per product, or if you're an office, it might be litres per full-time equivalent. So I think what we're going to quickly do is Lindsay's going to conduct a poll at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd be interested to find out really how often you read your water meters in your organisation. So just launch this quick poll here, and you've got some choices. If you could just select one, it's daily, weekly, monthly, not as often as monthly, or we don't take meter readings. So fantastic. Most of them are coming in now. Any more?
Right.
Yep. Okay, I think that's nearly everybody, so I'll just close that poll and share the results with you. So it's quite interesting, 44% read their meters monthly or weekly, which is it's really, really interesting. Fantastic. So we'll just move back to the slides.
Yep. I mean, it's very dependent on what your organisation actually does, how often you actually read your water meter. For example, if your water usage is changing on a daily basis, then you might want to look at it daily. But more generally speaking, weekly and monthly might be enough. I noticed there's about 11% of people don't take meter readings at all. So I would urge you as a first step that you look into that. Okay, move on. Okay, so where are the opportunities to actually save water within your organisation? So I'm going to try and give you some conservative costs and savings where it's possible. But obviously the actual savings are going to be dependent on your organisation. The first few can be implemented at no cost. Then I'll go through some opportunities that might require a small initial outlay. So actually I think before we get into that, Lindsay's going to conduct one more poll as well, because it feeds quite nicely into the next section.
Yeah, very quickly, we just want to understand how many of you review your wastewater contract and how frequently. So if you could just complete the poll, which should be appearing on your screen now, and select from the multiple choice there. Excellent. We're still coming in. Okay, that's most people have completed the poll now, so I'll just close that and share the results with you. Interesting, 63% review their wastewater contract annually, Richard.
That's quite interesting. I mean, I'm guessing it's maybe something that you do as part of you review all your utility bills on an annual basis. So that's good to see. For those that have never reviewed, I'll go into a bit more about why you should be looking at this going forward. So I'll just continue. So since 2008, all non-domestic customers in Scotland have been able to choose their water and sewers supplier. So this market is the first of its kind anywhere in the world, and you can now get your water and wastewater services from one of 12 suppliers. In addition, England and Wales are due to join a cross-border competitive market in about 2017 as part of market changes that are ongoing in England at the moment. So where's the actual opportunity for you guys? Well, there are a number, but you first need to think about what is the most relevant contract and what added value services are appropriate to your organisation. So some of the benefits of actually speaking to a number of suppliers, including your current one, is that they may be able to offer things like multi-site bill consolidation, which can be useful for multi-site organisations. So instead of getting bills for all of your sites individually at different times, some water suppliers can consolidate these into one account, enabling you to be billed once, containing all the information for each site, and this can really reduce administration burdens. There's also the potential for organisations to save money through a variety of tariffs, so it's worth speaking to a number of suppliers to determine whether you could make savings. Added value services as well include automatic meter reading, which again can be particularly useful for multi-site organisations to keep track of water use remotely at each site. This will enable better monitoring and quick identification of issues or leaks. Automatic meter reading can also be added to sub-meters, allowing you to track water use by activity at a specific site. And that's particularly useful if you have one area or one activity that consumes the majority of the water on your site. Also, again, to reduce your administration burden, it's also possible to be assigned a key account manager or a single point of contact. And this also means that if you have any problems, these should be resolved much more quickly. The next thing to do is to look for visible leaks and faults. By looking at your organisation from a water use point of view, you should be able to quickly pick up and identify leaks and faults. And why is this important? Well, a dripping tap is often ignored within an organisation, but each small drip is around £20 a year, and a bigger leak can be up to about £750 a year. And if you take that 3mm stream there, and that's actually hot water, then the cost of this leak to a business can be up to around £2,000 a year. And that's when you take into account the cost or the significant amount of energy that goes into heating that water. So how do you go about actually identifying leaks or faults within your site? To do this, you can do something as simple as a site walkaround, but try to do this in a structured way. So what do you actually need? Well, Resource Efficient Scotland have developed a site walkaround checklist. So taking that, a pen, a camera, which is useful to capture points of note to refer to later, and if you can get a hold of a site layout plan, these can be really useful to help you plan your walkaround and ensure you've visited all areas. Make sure you consult your health and safety manager to determine what personal protective equipment you might need, especially if you're accessing things like tanks and any plant areas, for example. So our checklist provides you with some things to look out for as you walk around your site. So you will want to check things like fixtures and fittings, these are operating correctly, as well as ensuring any water efficiency devices that you've already put in place or implemented are also operating correctly. At the bottom of the checklist, there's also a notes page which allows you to outline your findings and any follow-up work or questions that you might have for a later date. Next, once you've identified the easy-to-see leaks and faults, there's a couple of techniques that you can actually use to allow you to determine whether you have any hidden leaks or faults on your site. So leaks and faults are not always easy to see during a site walkaround or by staff in the normal course of a day. They can also often go undetected for long periods of time, running up unnecessary water bills. A shutdown check is a great way to see if you have any hidden leaks or faults on site that are costing you money. A shutdown check simply involves taking a water meter reading when everyone's left the site at night and again before they return. So this can be carried out, as I say, overnight or over a weekend or during a public holiday or another period of shutdown. This will provide you with a baseline water use, that is, how much water is actually used when no one's there. It can be used to highlight things such as leaks, unnecessary water use such as overnight flushing of urinals. If you find that you're using significant amounts of water outside of normal operating hours, the first thing to do is actually try to find the cause of that by carrying out the site walkaround. So while also considering whether you might have missed any activities, for example, vehicle washing or sprinkler systems or canteen operations. So if you still can't find the source of the additional water use, you can speak to your water supplier for advice on suitable next steps. These next steps are likely to include leak detection or perhaps checking the accuracy of your water meter. So I think we're going to conduct one more poll, and so I'll pass it over to Lindsay for that.
Yep, we're interested to know what mechanisms you have in place to enable staff to report leaks or faults. So up on your screen now is the poll, and if you could select an answer there which applies to you. Okay, fantastic, they're coming in now.
Quite spread.
I'll just share those results.
So most people have a dedicated email address or phone number. I think the most important thing is that staff know where to turn. If they do find a leak or a fault, that they have a very easy means of actually reporting it. That's really the bottom line, I would say. Okay. So the next opportunity is looking at how to engage and encourage staff. But first, I think we're actually going to take some questions before we move on to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a couple of questions come in. One of the first is that somebody has a site that's open 365 days of the year, and they're just wondering, they've heard that a shutdown check can be a good way to monitor their water use. They're just wondering the best way to go about that with their site open throughout the year.
I mean, I think the best way of doing it is just to identify where's your lowest period of activity. So it might be a weekend where there's maybe a small, I don't know, you're doing clean down or something like that, or you might have a week where you're doing a clean down or something like that. So it's identifying the lowest area of activity and then trying to account for that amount of water during that low period. So it's trying to almost come up with a kind of water mass balance, which actually I'll talk about in more detail in the second webinar. But it's just working out what activities are represented by how much water use, I suppose.
Okay, and the question is, somebody doesn't know where their meter is, and or even if they have one, and they're just wondering how they can find out.
Okay, this is something that should be outlined on your water bill, and there'll be an area where it actually tells you the location of the water meter. It's usually accurate, but sometimes it can be quite difficult to decrypt the description. So you're best speaking to your water supplier if you're not sure exactly where it is.
Okay, I think we've got time for one more, which is how easy is it to actually change your water supplier?
I mean, it should be fairly straightforward. It should take less than a month, and I think all you need is your supply point identification number, which I think you can find on your bill, and the new supplier should actually just take care of the rest. It's fairly straightforward.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm just going to quickly talk about encouraging staff and why that's important. Increasingly at Resource Efficient Scotland, we're understanding that engaging staff is a priority, but also one that can be a challenge. So we have developed quite a lot of materials to help break down those barriers for you. Because changing the behaviour of your staff can have a big impact on the amount of water that you use in your organisation and cut down on the amount that you waste. I think staff that appreciate the value and the cost of water are more efficient when they use it, and they're much more likely to report leaks or faults quickly when they spot them, which will enable you to fix issues immediately. Engaging staff on resource efficiency doesn't need to be as complicated as you might think, but one of the challenges is finding the time to develop training and communication materials, and that can be a barrier. So as I mentioned, we've developed what we call the Staff Engagement Toolkit, which has lots of resources which you can download all for free. The Staff Engagement Toolkit provides things like training materials to help train your staff on the need to be efficient, together with off-the-shelf materials such as leak reporting campaign materials, and you can really kind of just download them and kickstart your communications activities in your organisation. The next few slides I'll just really showcase some of those resources that sit within the toolkit. The first of those is resource efficiency at work, and this is kind of the training module within the toolkit, and it has lots of engaging and informative resources which will help bring new staff and existing staff up to speed on the importance of resource efficiency. So it includes a free 20-minute training video, a quiz, and a certificate which it'll help staff feel like they've actually achieved something. And also sitting within that we have a presentation and a script, which should you like to actually deliver the presentation yourself as opposed to have your employees sit down and watch the video, then you have that opportunity. The next thing is toolbox talks. This again sits within training and upskilling your staff, but it's really a more informal way of delivering that. We have developed 3 so far, one in waste management, one in energy efficiency, and of course, importantly for today, one in water efficiency. And as I said, these are absolutely excellent at engaging staff quickly on the job and in a slightly more informal way. And of course, you can use that template to develop things that are specific to your site and your business. The next element of the staff engagement toolkit is kind of campaign material, and by that we mean things that can help continually keep your initiatives in your staff's minds. So it's things like posters, stickers, web banners, and really to help spread your message and keep staff engaged and make sure they don't forget what you're focusing on in your organisation. And hot off the press, actually, just launched this week, is if you're in the hospitality sector, we've developed specific materials which can take you beyond engaging staff to actually engaging guests on site. And these are materials that we would envisage you could print off, laminate, and use in your guest bedrooms or in your areas where your guests are. And there's quite a few different things there, from door hangers, linen cards, towel cards, or sheets that you can print off and put in information packs. And if anyone needs anything more specific tailored to their organisation, then of course get in touch and we'd be happy to work through them with you. So I'll hand you back to Richard.
Thanks, Lindsay. Excuse me. So now what I want to do is move on to some of the low-cost opportunities. So those can be implemented with a bit of capital outlay. So the first of these opportunities is to review your toilet cistern sizes to determine whether the flush volume can be decreased. So where your cistern is larger than about 6 litres, there's an opportunity to reduce the flush capacity and save water and money. So as part of our recently introduced implementation guide for water, we've developed this diagram which helps you to determine the size of the cistern that you have and what the opportunity for reduction might be. So depending on when the cistern was installed, you can often assume what size of cistern it is, or you can physically measure it. So if your cistern is larger than 6 litres, there's an opportunity to reduce water and make savings. So what is it you can actually do? Well, the most straightforward technology is cistern volume adjusters, which are installed into the toilet cistern, offsetting a set amount of water, usually 1 litre. This means that every time you flush the toilet, 1 litre is retained, saving you this each time it's flushed. Alternatively, the toilets could be fitted with a dual flush mechanism, but when you're considering a dual flush, ensure that it's obvious to users how they actually use them, because some of them can actually be quite confusing. If you're planning a refurbishment, you should fit 4.5 litre dual flush toilets, and actually there's now a 1.5 litre toilet that's been introduced into the market recently and is actually receiving really good reviews. And this toilet uses a small amount of air, allowing the water used to be reduced significantly. You should also check toilets on a regular basis to ensure that they're not leaking, and a faulty ball valve can lead to water being discharged into the pan between flushes. So what kind of savings can you expect? Well, what I've done here, I would see this as quite a typical organisation. So if you assume a 9-to-5 business of about 100 staff, you can assume if you reduce the cistern size by 1 litre, you can expect to save about 62,500 litres per year, which is about £138 saving for a £20 investment, which doesn't maybe sound like a lot, but I'll show you later on, the savings really do add up. And if you actually consider that that's actually a 2-month payback, then it seems quite an obvious thing to do. So just a quick case study actually, just to kind of give you an idea of an everyday business that's actually introduced this and what they've managed to save. So Henderson's restaurant includes a retail outlet, a small bakery, a deli shop, and also a table service bistro, cafe and restaurant. It employs over 50 people and it does attract customers from all different age groups. So Henderson's were provided with water savings advice by Resource Efficient Scotland and were able to save about £5,000 per year. And this was just by reducing the water use by installing cistern volume adjusters and urinal flush controls. And that's actually a reduction of over 1/3 So next, let's have a look at the opportunities that exist for reducing the flow rates of taps and the potential savings associated with that. So best practice flow rate for a tap is about 4 litres a minute. You can measure the flow rate of any tap by measuring the time it takes to fill a 1 litre bottle and changing this into litres per minute. Many taps that I do come across very much exceed this flow rate, and there's a number of options that you can use to help reduce the associated water use. Flow regulators, for example, can be retrofitted to some taps or pipework, or may be included in new taps as well. These reduce the flow of water through the tap or pipework to a predetermined level. Tap aerators, these might be retrofitted to taps to maintain pressure while reducing the amount of water through the displacement of water with air. And if you're considering refurbishing washrooms, you should look at water efficient taps. And these might be the automatic taps or the PIR electronic taps, or spray taps, or the one in the diagram there, which are percussion taps, also known as push taps. And again, what's the kind of the art of the possible with reducing the flow rate of taps? Well, again, if we look at the same business model, so 100 staff, 9 to 5 operation, and say they've got 10 sets of taps, you can expect to save around 82,500 litres a year, which is about £252 if you include the cost of energy to heat it, and that's only a proportion of the water assumed to be hot. So again, that's a payback of under 5 months. Okay, next we can have a look at a really significant water user, and that's urinal flushing. So if you consider that uncontrolled urinals will flush 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, regardless of use, there's a real opportunity to implement some sort of control to reduce water use. Installing these devices can save up to about 70% of the water used. Depending on the site operating times, there are a number of options available to you. And this diagram, again, is contained within the implementation guide for water that's just been released by Resource Efficient Scotland. And this actually takes you through a flow diagram to help you determine what's the most appropriate technology for your operation. So if we take passive infrared sensors, or PIR, these will reduce flush frequency out of hours and during quiet periods. So particularly useful if you have times when there are only a few people or nobody about. The sensor basically controls a valve that allows a preset amount of water into the system per use. So when the system is full, the autosiphon discharges and the urinal flushes. A urinal timer, that can be installed in the pipework connected to the urinal, so that water supplied to the system is shut off during periods of non-use and is controlled during periods of high use, and therefore flushing becomes independent of use. It's much more controlled. Hydraulic valve, these can be fitted to the inlet the pipework of the urinal system. So when the inlet pressure decreases temporarily through water being used elsewhere in the washroom, for example, somebody washing their hands, then again the valve will open, allow a preset amount of water to pass into the cistern. When the cistern's full, again the autosiphon will discharge and flush the urinal. It also means that when the washroom is not being used, the pressure remains constant, so the valve remains closed. So as I say, this flow diagram is designed to help make it easier for you guys, and it's contained within the new water guide, which is available to download on the website. So again, if we look at the art of the possible, what is the art of the possible for this organisation? Same kind of thing. We assume that there's 3 urinal cisterns, each 9 litres, each flushing 4 times an hour. So if we move that to 3 urinal cisterns flushing 4 times an hour, but only 8 hours a day, 250 days a year, which is your typical 9 to 5 operation Monday to Friday, then you're looking at savings of about 730,000 litres per year, or about £1,600. And again, at a cost of about £450 to purchase, and you're looking at, again, about a 4-month payback. So as we've been going through, you might have thought that savings are a bit insignificant, but they do add up quite significantly. Consider just the low-cost opportunities, the one that needs a bit of capital investment. For a grand total of about £570, you can expect to save around £2,000, which isn't that bad really. And remember, this is typical organisation, and I would expect that some of you would be able to save much more. And again, these are annual savings as well. It's not a one-off saving. So just to give you another case study, another example of a business that we've worked with, Glasgow High School Club actually came to one of our water events the last time we ran them. And Keith actually went back to his organisation, started doing a bit of measurement and monitoring within his site. And he noted that he was using the same amount of water out of hours as well as he was during school hours. And he traced this back to just urinals constantly filling and flushing. So he actually installed timer controls and he reduced his overall water consumption by over 75%. And that was actually a saving of about £500 a month and about £6,000 a year. So as I say, these savings really do add up, and it's worthwhile looking into more detail to see if it is applicable to your business. Okay, I think we're going to do one last poll. Is this the last one?
Yep, that's right. Yep. We want to understand maybe what the biggest barrier you face to improving water efficiency is. So the poll will be coming on screen now, and you can select the answer that's most applicable to you. And this always helps us to develop more materials to support organisations like yourself. So those are coming in now. 75% so far on engaging staff. Excellent.
It's going to mix across the board again, actually. It's quite interesting.
I'll share those results with you. They're on screen now.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So it does come down to the sort of the engaging staff and behaviour change, which hopefully Lindsay covered earlier on and gave you some good ideas of some opportunities to do that. And again, finding time, financing projects as well. Hopefully, Resource Efficient Scotland can actually help you with some of those issues. So I'm quickly just going to go through some of the tools and templates and support options that we actually have available through Resource Efficient Scotland. And as I say, hopefully they'll help you to overcome some of these barriers. So we do provide a range of support options, all of them free, that can help you progress your water efficiency campaign. We do have a pot of money available as well in the form of the SME loan, which can be used to buy some of these devices that I've talked about earlier and get them installed at your premises. In addition, we do have a number of online tools that can be used to help identify additional savings. If you fancy seeing how your organisation is currently performing, you can answer a short series of questions and the Savings Finder will help provide you with a bespoke report highlighting where improvements and savings can be made and step-by-step actions to actually help you save money. And that's not just water, that's energy and waste as well. So if you're not entirely sure where to start, this is a good place to start. We did identify that there was a real hunger for people to actually learn more about resource efficiency tools and techniques, and as such we actually developed the Green Champions training course, which gives you a quick, structured access to knowledge, tried and tested techniques and free tools and templates that will fast-track your capabilities. So all you have to do really is go online, create a free training account, and that gives you access to 13 15-minute modules, and these are designed to fit into your lunch hour or break times. Very much bite-sized, very much easy to work through. There's tried and tested tools and templates to start downloading and using. There is the opportunity to enhance your CV with new skills, knowledge, and you do get a course completion certificate as well. And it's also worth mentioning as well, Resource Efficient Scotland has developed a pledge, and this is really to encourage businesses to take a series of actions to help use energy, water, and raw materials more efficiently. And it's a really good opportunity from a corporate social responsibility point of view to show your customers and suppliers that you're actually serious about becoming a more sustainable and ethical business. All we ask you to do really is to commit to between 3 and 6 key actions, which will then be approved by Resource Efficient Scotland, after which you've got about 12 months to successfully achieve the pledge. It's open to any Scottish business that wants to take part and allows you to really demonstrate your commitment to resource efficiency. So I'd urge you to really join the growing number of businesses from across Scotland who are already making this pledge. Okay, I think we'll move on and take any more questions that have come through.
Yeah, we've got a couple of questions. One of the, a couple of people asking about this really, about the water-saving devices. Someone's asking for a good place to look to buy them, and also another question asking really about guidance on specifications for water-saving devices.
I mean, a good place to to start when you're actually looking to procure water-saving devices is the water technology list, and this is really a government-funded tax scheme that allows you to offset the purchase of these devices against your taxable profits. So we'll actually go into a lot more detail about the water technology list as part of the third webinar, which we're actually doing in collaboration with the water technology list. But this gives you a list of basically approved water efficiency devices, and it covers a wide range of categories, including your domestic ones like taps, toilets, showers, urinals, as well as more sort of bespoke ones like cleaning in place and steam cleaning and things like that.
Another question which I think probably I'm best to answer is just asking about the Green Champions training and how that differs from resource efficiency at work. And I think the simplest way to answer that really is that they're almost like step 1 and step 2. So I think from a basic resource efficiency training, you would want to deliver resource efficiency at work, quite basic principles, and really just starting to get somebody on that road to becoming more efficient. And the Green Champions training is more advanced really, and that covers everything in a little bit more in depth.
Just quickly to pick up on a question from David as well. I didn't quite cover the new build aspects. From a sort of a new build point of view, you can look at things like BREEAM, which will give you some ideas and a place to start at least. And as I say, the water technology list as well, which gives you a good starting point from a procurement point of view.
Another question which might be quite specific, Richard, and you might need to take this one offline, but it's asking really that somebody's analysed their meter readings and they've created a simple water mass balance, but they've identified unusually high consumption at one of their sites, and I guess they just want to know how they can go about assessing whether this is due to a leak or some other cause. So I don't know if you've got some advice there or whether or not you want to contact that person directly.
I mean, I'll probably contact you directly after, but just to give a quick overview. I mean, looking at your mass balance in maybe a bit more detail and trying to identify sort of where are your key water using areas, and actually digging a bit deeper to see if there is something you're missing. If not, then I know you've said that you've had issues trying to sort of identify next steps, but your water supplier should be able to sort of point you in the right direction in terms of leak detection activities, but there are also private companies that will do that as well, and it's like acoustic leak detection activities and things like that. But I would say that's a last resort, and you really want to make sure.
Another question is someone asking, would someone be able to come out to their business and help them identify the most appropriate water efficiency options?
I mean, yeah, we're able to offer on-site support in some cases. Best thing to do probably would be to call the Resource Efficient Scotland helpline, and they'll provide you with a request form that you can fill in, and we can basically take it from there.
Okay, fantastic. I think that's all the questions that we have time for right now, Richard, and that concludes today's webinar. I just want to take this just to say thank you to Richard for his time, loads of great and fantastic ideas that hopefully you can go away and start implementing, and thank you all for joining us in today's webinar. We'll share the slides and the webinar recording with you shortly. It's also important to maybe note that we have lots of free training workshops and also some more specific webinars coming up, so take a look at the website and of course book onto them if any apply to you, and we hope that you can join us at them in the future. So thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks everyone.